Okay.
Okay, so what's your name?
It's Moray Barber.
Nice to meet you, Moray. So can you tell me about your decision to attend the University of Aberdeen?
Sure. So I was brought up in Aberdeen, and then I moved in my teens to a place called Findhorn, which is in Murrayshire. I was one of four, sorry, in a family. I'm the third, which is why I said three there. And both my sisters before me had gone to Aberdeen. I applied to do law in Edinburgh and Aberdeen, and Aberdeen just edged it, I think, in my decision around where to go, given I was familiar with it. I had that family unit that was also back in Aberdeen with my sisters being there. My eldest sister also studied law at Aberdeen, so it felt like a known quantity. And she was in her final diploma year as I was going into my first year, so there was a nice link there, I think. So it felt safe.
Did you see a lot of prospects in law at the time, especially in the working field?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'll be honest, I didn't go into law to become a lawyer, and that's how it's transpired pretty much in the end. So I, having seen my sister do that degree, there was a lot of things I was quite passionate about, so history, I was good at maths, but I think the idea of having a vocational type degree was quite attractive, in the sense that I would see how I got on in law and how I enjoyed it. And then I had 5 years if you do the diploma in legal practice back at the time. So 5 years to kind of make up my mind, or 4 years really as part of the honours degree, to decide whether I wanted to go into law or do something else.
Okay. So what did you find most challenging while studying at Aberdeen?
So, I mean, there's a number of things. One is, there's the kind of academic challenges, and secondly, there's the social challenges, I think, when you're going from school to university. One of the big things on the more social aspects, I did a lot of sport at the school. I was a swimmer and a runner, so I was up every morning at 5 o'clock when I was going to school, and you can have a fixed routine, and you do that, you go to school, and you go back swimming, and you go running, and it's pretty full on, and then trying to replicate that when you're out with that routine at university, where you're in charge of your own time a little bit more, and you've got lots of different choices to make, where am I going to get up at 4:30 in the morning to go swimming, or am I going to maybe relax a bit more and be focused for my 9 o'clock lecture. Social, the social aspect of university is great fun. You make new friends. You're living in halls of residence. It's maintaining that discipline around certainly the sporting side was quite hard, and it was a big challenge for me. And eventually, I think I kept things up for the first couple of years, and after a while it dwindled. Even when you've got the local, the university clubs around, the swimming club and the running club. So I found that quite hard, and it felt like a bit of my previous life ebbing away a little bit. Still maintained the fitness, but that kind of structure to it was hard to maintain. And then academically, I think it's a bit around structure. I found that connection with the teachers, with your fellow students, and the when you're going through exams, they're quite focused towards an endpoint, whereas the learning in academia is obviously very different. There's a bit around you have to take far more responsibility for your own education, and that took me, I think, most of my first year to really find my feet about how best to learn and how to be an effective learner in university.
Mm-hmm. What did you enjoy about law while studying the subject?
So it's really varied, or it certainly was back when I studied it. So in first year you get experience of Roman law, which is what Scots law is based on, a lot of the guiding principles, and it doesn't really feel like a practical exercise, but it was quite enjoyable. There was a very entertaining lecturer who led that course, Katie Miller. Unfortunately, sadly passed away a few years ago, but really kind of charismatic kind of lecturer, and your family law, David Lessels, who was again a very engaging speaker and lecturer, criminology. You learn about forensic science later on. That was the packed out lecture from our law studies. So quite a broad range of topics in the law faculty, and I think that's what really attracted me, made it enjoyable. And you have, I remember one of my friends did space law and as one of his honours degrees. So you can it's very broad, and I think that was part of its appeal.
Okay. Do you still hold the same passion for criminology and Roman law to this day?
No, I think it's kind of gone away and come back a little bit, and sadly, it's criminology in particular is really interesting because my daughter, she's now turned 15, and she's now talking about that as a specific career. She wants to be a dancer first, but if the dancing doesn't work out, law or criminology, certainly the criminology aspect to it. I don't think she would enjoy the Roman law bit as much as I did, but definitely the law plays a huge part in what I do day to day in my job, and that some of the specific subjects I enjoyed at the time aren't necessarily there, but I can look back on my years studying it and think it's definitely expanded my knowledge, my general knowledge, my understanding of how the world works, and why it works in the way it does.
So, how have your goals and aspirations changed since you've attended Aberdeen?
So I probably started university with a really open mind, didn't know what to expect. I would have been aspirational in terms of wanting to balance fun with learning, and I don't think I would quite have seen myself where I am today, and whether that's geographically being in Aberdeen. I think I might have expected myself to be somewhere else in the world, but we can come back to that, because I think it's not a regret. It's just not what I would have seen myself when I was 19. I think I've definitely had I don't think I've changed much as a person since university. My 5 years at Aberdeen University were hugely rich in terms of experience in social circles and friendships that I've maintained to this day. I think for me that mix of learning and friendship, learning about the emotional intelligence side of life, which I don't think universities necessarily think about, but it's the environment, I think, for learning how to deal with different people, deal with different lecturers. We touched on earlier about that connection you might have with teachers at school and how that changes, but ultimately people are still people. So whilst your interactions with your lecturers or your head of school or head of department might not be the same or have the same intensity or familiarity, in terms of what you might want to achieve, or people you might want to influence, or people you might want to help you, you still need those same skills. And I think I probably have benefited from, that's one of the main takeaways from my experience at university that has led me to where I am today. I don't think it's my IQ or my technical ability. I think it's more around what I've learned around how about relationships and how people work, and how to achieve outcomes.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned that you had swimming. Are there any other clubs or societies that you were part of while being at Aberdeen? Yeah. So I joined the life-saving team, principally so I could go to America and do Camp America, and I did that did it for 2 years. For the first year to get my qualifications, and then me and my pal went off to New England and did summer camp, and I was the swimming instructor and did some life-saving. So I joined that group. I was a member of the Hares and Hounds, which was the university running club, the cross-country club, joined the swimming club, as I talked about before. And that was all in first and second year. In second year, I joined a group called Treading the Boards, which they do an annual show at the Arts Centre. Again, I joined that because my sister
I mentioned her before. She did Treading the Boards as well. I'd done some school shows back in the day. I remember going to see her when I was in first year. They did a production of How to Succeed in Business Without Really Trying, and I kind of watched that and thought I could do that. And it was also a different group. So I had my halls of residence friends. I had my friends from running, and I also had some old school friends still in Aberdeen. But also I thought, well, that would be another group of people that I might not necessarily come into have many interactions with, and I stayed with Treading the Boards for the rest of my career, my time at Aberdeen Uni. I also then that led to me doing the Aberdeen Student Show, which I don't know if you're aware of that, but the Student Show is part of the Student Charities campaign, and they put on a show at His Majesty's every year. It's coming up next month, actually, in April, depending on when we go out. But the show will be in April. So that's a show where it's written, performed, administered by students, and I absolutely threw myself into that once I got involved in it, both from a performance perspective, but also the administration side of it, and that was pivotal, I think, in terms of where I've ended up and where my life's gone, where my career's gone, the friendships I've made, the skills I learned on the admin team, because you're basically responsible for a production which was of a budget of nearly six figures at the time. One of the years I was administrator, I think we raised something like £65,000. It's now far in excess of that now, what the students raised. But I would find myself in job interviews talking about Student Show and my experience of that more than my law degree, because it was effectively like creating a mini P&L, a mini production in a year, and yes, with a big team around you, but that was an experience that, as I said, it's kind of shaped me, and something I'm hugely passionate of. And I every 2 years I organise a reunion of my group and we go to see the Student Show. So again, this year is one of those 2 years, just to support the institution. It's been going on over 100 years. So for me, that's a tradition that the University of Aberdeen has been crucial to for years, and I want to play my part. Once I got a taste of it, and I thought, wow, this is such an important thing. The people of Aberdeen support it. It's something we should be really, really proud of, and I got a huge amount of value from that, as you might have guessed from that very long answer. So,
as you mentioned with the charity, how do these clubs and societies impact yourself as an individual and like your formation?
Yeah, so I think friendships was the starting point. I think being part of that community. We talk about it with my kids when they find their tribe, and I had some great. My friends from Halls were fabulous, but there's something around both Treading the Boards and the Student Show that felt quite tribal, and that you're all working towards one big end production, so that it teaches you around teaming. Back to that point I was talking earlier about relationships and knowing how to navigate, whether that's conflict, or whether it's leadership and trying to get everyone to say, look, we need to pull together, we need to find a way of selling all these tickets, or we need to get sponsorship, or finding the right people for certain jobs, if you're the administrator of that team. So all of that is a great training ground for life, for work, and a sense of purpose, I think, from it all as well. It's part of university life that is one of the most enriching, I think, around getting involved in getting involved in a team and creating something, which is I know what you're doing as well. And I think being able to create something out of nothing and is really powerful.
So, as you mentioned with Camp America, did you partake in any other part-time jobs or internships while you were at Aberdeen?
No, the so I did Camp America one summer. In first year I went back home and I worked on a farm over the summer. And then in future years, what I actually did was I kind of fell into this. So it's kind of linked to the creative endeavours. I was asked to assemble some actors to take part in a murder mystery night for a law firm. They were looking to do a kind of different social night for their staff, and they approached. I don't know how it came to me, but it ended up in my inbox, asking if we could assemble some actors to write a murder mystery night for the staff, and so we. And it came through the law school, in fact, that's how it came in, and because they knew I was interested in training the boards and student show. So we did a one-off production, so me and my friend Ewan McGilfrey, who's one of my best friends in the law, in my law class, and also was interested in comedy writing, and we just created the script, and we went along and we performed it, and we got paid, I think we got our dinner, and we got paid something like £50. So none of the actors really got paid. It was pretty much our expenses, nothing else. Anyway, so we did that, and then Ewan and I got talking. We thought, well, we could create a business where we do murder mystery nights, so we set up a business called Dead Sharp Productions, and we wrote something like 5 or 6 different murder mystery scripts, and we had our pool of actors from the student fraternity of about 20 people in the end, and we would go around. We went to Edinburgh, Glasgow, did Aberdeen. We did a show, a murder mystery night up in Moray through kind of family friends, and that pretty much was my job from halfway through second year, maybe third year, for the rest of my university career, it was great fun, and we would get in a minibus. We'd get a university minibus, and we'd all drive down to Glasgow, the hotel would do all the booking, so all we had to do was turn up and perform, and then drive home on the minibus back at 11 o'clock at night and get into Aberdeen, and so it was a real social aspect to it all, but basically it was unionised business. We paid the actors money to be part of it, and that kind of sustained it, and so the university was great. They had entrepreneurship type course. Not that we went on that, but they ran events at the time, which we would go along to, which kind of helped us formalise it. And then when I left university, started my real job, I sold that to a chap who was in his third year, and then he carried it on for a couple of years as well.
Is it still ongoing?
No, I think the scripts are still around somewhere, but I think when Gareth left university, that's when it all wound up. But that was fun. So.
Yeah. So can you explain your current job and responsibilities at EY as an Aberdeen office managing partner?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm a tax partner by background. One of the courses you do as part of your law degree back in the day was revenue law, which is effectively fiscal taxation, and I quite enjoyed that at the time. So when I left university, I applied to do work in an accountancy firm but focus on tax. And then when you come through one of the big 4 firms, which EY is, there's a bunch of different departments. There's tax, accounting, consulting, and corporate finance. Broadly, there's lots of other services we do, but those are the 4 big service lines. And so I focused on tax. And then, so over the years, you could work your way through the organisation, get your qualifications, become a chartered tax advisor, and then you have your clients that you serve. So over the years, I've progressed through to partner, and I have my own client base that I look after, support them if they're doing transactions, if they've got compliance issues they need to deal with, filing their tax returns in the UK or overseas. And I've got a team in Aberdeen, we've got a team of about 20 directly in my corporate tax team, and then another 15 or so doing people taxes, indirect VAT, customs, all those kind of things all sit within tax. So I'm head of tax for Aberdeen with EY, and then I'm also the office managing partner, which sounds probably a bit more glamorous than it actually is. But my job as office managing partner is to represent EY Aberdeen as well as I can in the marketplace. So whether that is going out and speaking to schools and students to talk about why EY is a great place to have a career. It might be about talking about energy transition and being the spokesperson for the office in terms of fiscal policy. It might be around, well, where the skills, what's the skills gap that we've got in energy transition. So speaking to our PR and comms people to create press releases to go out to the journalists, having conversations with the journalists to talk about that. It's about fostering the office environment and making sure that people are connecting with each other and feeling having almost a sense of purpose. So for us to be able out talking to our clients as an office, because I've talked about before about 4 different main service lines. So sometimes we can get quite focused on just our day job. And for me, in an office the size of Aberdeen, we have an opportunity to present EY Aberdeen office, and all have one voice and all kind of want to say the same things, and I'm not saying everything's rosy and brilliant, but interact more closely together. So my job really, I feel, is to kind of lead the way in terms of how we engage externally, but also how we're respecting each other and how we want to interact with each other on a daily basis and setting an example around that. And encouraging people to, we're quite a diverse international office, so making sure that everyone's being respectful and inclusive of everyone on a daily basis.
Okay. So what made you go into this field, and how did you get into this current position that you're in?
So, well, into tax, I decided I didn't want to be a lawyer.
Why not?
So I kind of feel I when I answer this question, I kind of taint the whole of the legal profession by reflecting on a conveyancing lecture that I was in. So there was so after you do your degree, I think they do this differently now, but at the time it was a 1-year diploma in legal studies, diploma in legal practice it was called, and conveyancing, which is the kind of purchase and sale of property, is a important part of the law, but I was sitting in a 3-hour seminar, distinctly remember this, 10 of us around the table talking about how to sell a property, and it felt really boring and formulaic. And apologies to any conveyancers who might watch or listen to this, but I just thought, I can't do this. Now, the irony on all of that is not lost on me, that a lot of people might not think tax is the most exciting career choice either. But for me, I always like numbers. I like that tax policy changes on an annual basis. There's always something to talk about, and my job is completely different today to what it was 15 years ago, to what it was 5 years ago. Even though whether that's the legislation changing or our clients' approach to risk and managing the risk, how we engage with the auditors, how we engage with tax authorities. So anyway, I had been offered a traineeship in with a legal firm, and I interviewed for it, got offered it, and turned it down because my gut told me that wasn't for me. So and maybe part of that was having done the creative side and having had my own business for a little while. There was just something nagging at me saying I just didn't want to do a traineeship. So I've got lots of great friends who had a fabulous career in the law. So, and my sister went off and did it, obviously. So it's nothing against law, it just wasn't for me. Mm-hmm. But then, so I took some time out, and then I started to look at the accounting profession, and I wasn't necessarily fixated on the tax part of that, but I did like the career progression and the experience that the big 4 firms offered. The international side is a big draw. So a lot of my friends and colleagues have come into a big 4 organisation and travelled. My best friend from Forres, he went straight to work for PwC, and then as soon as he qualified, moved to Australia, has never come back, but is still works for PwC as a partner over there. So there's lots of opportunities. So that's what attracted me to certainly starting off my career with the Big Four and seeing where it took me. And as it turns out, I haven't moved very far geographically, but I do think the range of experiences that I've had with the Big Four and in accountancy and tax has been far more suited to kind of my skill set in the end.
Mm-hmm. All right. Can you walk us through your day-to-day work and some of the frequent problems that you face in the workplace?
So there'll be a mix of so if I look at my inbox from the last few days, so I was away for the weekend for my wife's birthday. So between some of the emails that came in on Friday and what I've done so far today, we have a client who is needs to solve a problem with their auditor. They have a difference of opinion. So we are trying to work with the audit team from a different firm and supporting our client and answering that question. So we've got a difference of opinion. We've got a difference of a technical opinion. So I'm saying my opinion is X and this is Y and this is what the law says, and they've got a different opinion. So trying to help our client who's sitting in the middle get to a place where they're happy that what's going to go in their accounts represents a true and fair reflection of what's there. An email came in last night from our US firm in Houston saying we've got this transaction, it's due to complete on Friday. They were going to use a Norway holding company, now they want to use a UK holding company. Can we get an answer from you in the next 24 hours about how is that structure going to work or not? So we get to think fast, we need to check the legislation, we need to, so currently, whilst I'm doing this, the team are away beavering away on, reviewing the documents and going to try and turn that around so we can have a call with the US this afternoon. At the same time, we've got people who, people who've got they're in their training contracts and they need some support around where they might be basing themselves over the next few months due to family issues, or they might have so my job again is to kind of help people find a way of managing their home life and their career. So HR stuff comes up all the time, making sure the team are supported as well as they can be. So I'll have stuff like that. At the same point, a large part of my job is around, well, what does the market look like in the next 5 years? What do we have the right mix of clients? So that's kind of more longer term strategic. So thinking about, are there what work can we do for existing clients, but also are there other clients that we think we can help and we want to work with? So a big part of my job is that, and then I represent the firm at dinners and going on for lunches, and that's the bit that my wife thinks is nice and glamorous. But as a necessary part of the job is to maintain relationships, and I've got lots of clients, so the better I know my clients and the better I understand their challenges, then the better advisor I can be.
Absolutely. So how do you prioritize tasks and manage your time effectively in the workplace?
So I'll be honest, that's something I've had to work on quite hard since leaving university. I was probably, when I started out my career, I'll deal with whatever's in front of me first, rather than prioritisation. And I think the Big Four in particular are great at managing through feedback and through setting goals and objectives every year. And if that's not a skill, a strength, then helping you manage that. So I have to work really hard at prioritisation and thinking about, right, my week ahead, this is what I need to do. So I tend to spend, if it's not Sunday night, the first thing I'll do on Monday morning is look at my calendar and think, right, these are the key priorities. This is what I want to achieve on a weekly basis. I also do a monthly planner, and I do an annual planner, which I'll pick up every month. And I'm old school. I'll use a notebook like the one I've got in front of me here, and that I'm sure some colleagues will use electronic versions or whatever, but it's as boring as that, in that I will write out my to-do list on a weekly basis, and you have to be selfish in my job, I think, or most jobs, I think. If you want to prioritize things, you have to know when to say no, and that is a skill that I've had to learn, and I certainly when I'm doing counselling conversations with some of the team, I think a lot of professionals they'll always say yes because they'll want to try and help, whether it's your clients or whether it's someone in your team. But if you're not a little bit selfish around, like, these are my priorities and this is why, and I need, we've all got a boss somewhere, and our home. A big thing I've learned over the last 4 or 5 years is it's important to prioritise the family when you need to. And COVID has done a couple of things. One, it's I think it's had a huge impact societally, particularly for the younger folk. And so I think there's a bit more support that someone like any kind of business leader needs to be mindful of and think about. But it's also freed up, I think, a certain fixed mindset around the 9 to 5 typical way of working. And so, if I in a way where I would say, right, that afternoon I need to be at home, or I need to be driving the kids to whatever their activities, or if my wife's want to focus on something, I'll go and focus on the family so she can do what she needs to do. And I might do some work at night, but it's that is a big thing, I think that I'm focused on in terms of reordering my working day.
Healthy balance.
It's got and a lot of people struggle with that. I know, that the work-life, people call it work-life balance. I think it's just life balance.
Yeah. So how do you foster a positive work culture and maintain strong relationships with both employees and stakeholders?
So that's got to be about honesty and integrity. Our clients expect a certain level of service from a Big Four accounting firm, a firm like EY. They will expect a level of professionalism, responsiveness, and sometimes expectations can be unreasonable. But for me, the important thing is helping my team. Again, it's back to that point, not saying just jumping to yes.
Yeah.
I think it might be yes, but, or we're really busy with something just now. Hear what you're saying. So let's have a quick call. Let's understand first. Let's understand what the real timeline is, and then let's balance out. Because what I don't want to do is have my team working till 2 a.m. on something which either A, might not be right, because you're not going to be firing on all cylinders if you're working that late, or for their own mental health, their own well-being. So it's about that balance around finding, my job for my team is kind of protecting my team and saying, like, let me have the conversation with the client and talk about expectations and talk about what we can deliver within certain time scales. All our clients are respectful and understanding, but everyone feels pressure at times, and a lot. I think most jobs, it's hard to really understand someone else's job unless you're doing it, and so I try and put myself in my client's shoes. I try and they might think our job is dead easy, right? So they ask a question and that's 2 hours of your time. Surely we can answer that. And there's a bunch of technical analysis and risk that we need to be thinking about to make sure we don't expose our clients to risk. So my job is to trying to articulate that and say, well, it's 5 hours actually because we need to do X, but I want to review it as well. That adds a bit of timeline. So ultimately it boils down to communication and being able to have that strong relationship where you can say, sorry, we're not going to get to that today, but it'll be tomorrow, promise you. And what you get will be fully formed in terms of analysis and answer. So I naturally don't like giving bad news. I don't like conflict, but sometimes that's something I've learned. If you get the right relationship right, then you can manage some of those conversations.
Yeah. So with the rise of remote work and virtual legal proceedings, how do you adapt your management style? So I don't think my management style's changed too much.
I prefer face-to-face conversations when I can, but through the nature of our client base, who tend to be international, in the past you would have been on a conference phone, and you wouldn't be visual. Now you can do things through Teams or Zoom or other other apps which allow that. So I don't think my style's changed too much. When I joined EY, it was the middle of COVID, so I found that pretty challenging. So I didn't get to meet my team in person for 6 months after joining. So that was a real struggle, I think, trying to struggle's maybe too strong a word. I think that was a real challenge, I would say, in terms of getting to know the team. So right back to what I said at the start, it's about relationships, and it's about understanding how people work and tech and what they like and where they like to work. And we at EY we ask people to come in at least, in tax 3 days a week into the office, and sometimes that doesn't work for everyone, and that's okay, as long as I understand people's working patterns and styles and what their life looks like, whether that's family commitments and things. So I don't think my style's changed. I just think the way that I probably communicate is maybe a little bit different. But ultimately, I'll always come back to I'd rather be sitting face to face with someone.
So continuous improvement is crucial for staying ahead in a competitive landscape. How do you encourage professional development and skill enhancement in the office?
So a large part for EY and the team here, Aberdeen has a rich network of organisations like OE UK, Offshore Energies UK, the Aberdeen Chamber of Commerce, AREG, which is the Renewables Energy Group, a bunch of others that will organise breakfasts, business breakfasts, dinners, learning sessions, and whilst EY we are technical experts on accounting and tax and finance and consulting, we need to understand what our clients are doing in the sector. So the firm will provide our people with the technical updates that they need for their job, to be able to do their job. That will naturally come from a learning team in London who will send out the updates. We get weekly tax updates, both from a UK perspective and globally, things we need to know about our job, to give great advice. But I think there's a big piece around personal development and an understanding about what our clients are doing. That's why I mentioned all those organisations. I encourage the team to broaden their horizons, and so people might think that's networking. I don't think of it as networking at all. I think that is about personal development. So you might meet some people who might become clients or might be helpful to you in your career, but actually what you're going to be attending this thing, listening to industry experts on the energy transition, or floating offshore wind, or the importance of ports around the area for how to deliver the offshore, so the energy transition, giving you something to talk about when you go and meet someone new, right? You've learned these facts. All of that makes you a more rounded individual. It doesn't necessarily make you a better tax professional, but makes you more interesting. Yeah. And that's why I'm really keen for our people to go to these events.
Mm. So what kind of law did you practice before going into accounting and taxes?
Well, none. No. That was during my diploma year, which is the more practical bit of the law degree, and that was when I decided I didn't really want to go. I did do a little bit. I did some work experience at a local council. So I probably did about 4 months of free unpaid legal work, and in a council what was that? That was everything from advising on, to a bit of conveyancing actually, kind of access rights to a harbour to sitting at the local sheriff court and taking notes for the council lawyers, a bit of legal research, things like that. But no, I went straight into tax law, effectively. So I've never been a practicing lawyer. I went straight to do my professional tax qualifications, rather than after you do your diploma, you've got to do 2 years of traineeship before you can then call yourself a lawyer. So I didn't do that, but I went straight into accounting and finance.
Okay. So how do you stay updated on the changes and developments in the legal field?
So again, that's there's a bit around what we call CPD, where you kind of take responsibility for your own learning. But the firm is pretty good for sending me updates and sending the team updates about legislative tax changes, like I mentioned before. So that might be changes in the UK, might be changes to a lot of our clients from Houston, in US, Norway, Australia, Africa. So staying abreast of that, I think for me as a partner, it's important to understand what changes are happening in the industry as well. There's also, when you get into tax with a sector lens, we have things like the Energy Profits Levy, which was brought in a few years ago to which has a misnomer if to get too controversial, a windfall tax. I don't think it's a windfall tax at all. But we need to understand that, and we understand the long-term impact of that, how it impacts things like decommissioning, where our clients who are working in the sector are then thinking about, well, in 5 years' time we're going to be decommissioning these assets as well. How does that interact with the tax rules? So a lot of that is some of it. The firm will send out the technical updates to us, and our job is to make sure we read them, go on training courses. All of that is really important. But I think there's if you work in a place like Aberdeen, which is quite sector driven, it's not just oil and gas and energy, but a lot of it is still. I think it's important for us to maintain an awareness of what's happening in the industry as well. And again, that comes right back to being able to advise properly on our clients. If we don't understand their business and the challenges they're facing, I can't advise as well as I would like. So there's an element there around taking responsibility and of understanding things, and also being able to talk knowledgeably, but also prioritising that as a part of your to-do list. So yes, you've got clients to respond to, you've got people to look after, but you also have responsibility, I think, certainly as a partner, office managing partner in a place like Aberdeen, to understand what's happening in the sector.
Absolutely. So do you have any advice for students who are struggling with the transition from academia to the working field?
I think be kind on yourself. I think is a huge part. I say that as someone who, probably up until getting to university, things came quite easily, and then I had a very rich and fulfilling university life, and then moved away, started work, different city, and I wouldn't say the first year, whilst I enjoyed the environment and the job, it took me a while to get the brain to really click, to feel like I was doing a good job. And that comes with insecurity, comes with just talking to yourself negatively about how you're getting on and how you're doing. Even despite people saying you're doing fine, it's just all part of the learning process. I think you need to remind yourself you're kind of going back to the bottom of the rung of the ladder again. You're starting again in terms of your learning journey. And I think I would tell my younger self, when I started out work, just go. You're doing fine. It is back to learning, and you're not going to suddenly leapfrog 3 rungs up and feel confident and be able to do what other colleagues are doing, just because you have to start learning again, and you have to, the world of work, even if you have a very broad, balanced university career, or you've got some jobs and you have extracurricular activities, you still need to almost relearn what being a person in a team, focusing on these particular, quite narrow areas sometimes is, and it's okay to take your time to get comfortable on that.
Do you have any advice for students who are trying to get in the same field as you?
I mean, you mentioned work experience before. We run summer internship programs, as the other accountancy firms will do the same. They're a great way of getting some insight into what working in a firm like EY is. So I would always encourage, if you're at university and it's even a possibility you might want to go into consulting or finance or tax, to seek out some of these summer programs, just because they'll give you a feel for what it's like to work in things. When I'm interviewing people, I'm obviously interested in the academic credentials of the people applying, but I want to see personality, and I want to get an understanding of what makes that person tick, because most of you coming out of university will have will be rounded individuals with strong academics, but I want, if I'm looking to a future employee, I want to understand what their journey is. So don't shy away in interviews, for example, of I wouldn't say oversharing, but giving the interviewer a chance to get to know you. And I say that because some of our processes can be quite. I'm doing an interview this afternoon actually, and for a graduate role in my team, and we have a set number of questions to ask and a set number of time, and I try and encourage the interviewee to find the space to open up a little bit. So our structure can be quite fixed because we have to be consistent around all our graduates coming in, but there'll be opportunities for us to expand on that. So maybe if you're interviewing as well, just listen to the questions and listen to what the interviewer is actually asking you, and they're trying to tease out from you, because they want to find out who you are, because your CV will probably say what you've done pretty well. So that would be a key part of advice. And back to that point around summer internships, again, it can be quite daunting, and no one's looking for an extrovert to come out and wow everyone, but find the opportunities to build those connections and share a bit of who you are and what makes you tick.
Yeah. If you could go back in time and change anything about your time at Aberdeen or your work life, or just give yourself some advice, what would that be?
So going back to Aberdeen Uni, I think I would probably have worked a little bit harder than I did, but I had a really enriching time, and I learned a great lesson at uni, where there was a program called Erasmus, which I don't think we're part of anymore because of the coming out of the EU, but people had to get a certain amount of qualifications to be allowed onto the Erasmus scheme, which involved 3 months away in either Regensburg or Palermo in Sicily, and I missed out by something like 1 mark from my EU institutions, and I probably up to that point in my life, I'd have been able to try and influence that situation, even though it was 1 point out, to go and speak to someone and say, can I get a second chance, and can I resit the exam, and blah blah blah. And the answer was quite clearly, well, no. There's a we can't set a precedent just for you, Moray. These are the rules, and I took that quite badly at the time. But the person in charge of the program was absolutely right. I should have worked harder, and I should have got a better mark if I really wanted to go on that program. So I think there's an element of that's kind of what I was saying. I probably could have done a bit more at times, and really think about what it was I wanted to focus on. So if I really did want to go to Palermo, rather than focus on something else at the time, whether that's girlfriend or whether it's one of the Trading the Board shows or whatever, then I would have reprioritised differently. And then I think back to my earlier self. I think with work, again, it would be back to that kindness piece, just being kinder to yourself, kinder to myself, and not. I've always worried about certainly that the first 5 years of your career, thinking, where am I compared to my peers? And are they maybe that guy there is a bit younger than me because he left uni and they're ahead of me at work, or that lady over there's gone into that team and she's getting all that experience and that's not fair. And, I'm not getting the balance. None of that really matters in the end. It's about what you do and what you focus on and what you want out of your career. So I would go back to my, let's say, 25, 30-year-old self and say, look, just again, do the right things, be true to yourself around who you are. Things will work out. As long as you work hard, and you'll get knocks throughout the time, and resilience is the thing that I think has got me to this stage in my career. But that took me a few years to learn, I think, and build up some of that resilience, because it's not about other people's race, it's about your own.
Absolutely. All right, well, thank you for your time.
No, great. Really enjoyed it.